You're watching NBA Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Jayson. We're breaking down the latest on Damian Lillard. Is he going to be out of Portland in the coming days? Has he requested a trade? Let's get to the latest. So this report coming out early on Friday, according to True Hoop, Damian Lillard expected to request a trade in, quote, the days to come. That report comes from a source close to Damian Lillard. So now you're looking at one of the best scorers in the NBA, a guy who a lot of teams across the NBA are very interested in, and the pursuit for Dame is on for one of the best bucket getters in the NBA. On top of that report from True Hoop, this coming down from Barry Bonds. He is verified, covers the NBA according to his Twitter profile. He had this to say: Damian Lillard has officially requested a trade from the Portland Trail Blazers. The Knicks, Lakers, Heat, and Warriors, all teams that Dame is expected to be interested in. And coming up, we'll break down these Damian Lillard trade destinations. First, a quick look at the player. My gosh, this guy is a cold-blooded killer. He'll stab you in the heart at the end of playoff games. The playoff success as a team hasn't been there for the Blazers. You know, the last several years, they failed to get out of the first round. They had that Western Conference Finals trip in 2018, but that's the furthest the Blazers have made it in the playoffs since Dame was drafted out of Weber State in 2012. Almost 29 points per game, very good creator as well. This guy at the end of games is a go-to scoring option who's one of the most elite in his craft. He's got everything in his offensive pocket, and he's a cold-blooded assassin. His contract for the next several years, for teams interested in him, they're going to have to absorb a large salary. This is the base salary over the next few years. This upcoming season, $39+ million. It goes up to 42. 2023, 2024, up to 45.5, and that salary continues to blossom before Dame is a free agent in a few years. So as for the teams that are going to be interested in Dame, we have a list coming up. There's going to be several, but first, predict his future for us here on NBA Now. We're a very interactive YouTube channel. We like you to come up with your own hot takes. Where will Damian Lillard play next season? Get those predictions in the comment section. Last Dame trade destination, the Boston Celtics. Jayson Tatum emerging as a franchise cornerstone player. Like the Lakers, the Celtics, with those 17 championships, like LA, always in the market for a premium asset and elite player. Jayson Tatum, he's on the cusp of being a top 10 player. And if this means that you have to possibly give up a player like Jaylen Brown, where the fit has kind of been clunky, to get back Damian Lillard, you have to think long and hard about that if you're Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens, first offseason as an NBA general manager and president of basketball operations, it's already been busy. He switched up jobs. He traded Kemba away for Al Horford, brought in Ime Udoka. Could the next move possibly be involving Jaylen Brown in a trade for Damian Lillard? We'll see, and only time will tell. You know, we'll break it down and cover it for you here on Chat Sports. This last trade idea for you. Celtics get Damian Lillard and Robert Covington. Covington thrown in that deal as a 3-and-D guy who also has a large salary to make these match. Blazers get back Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart as he enters the final year of his contract, and Peyton Pritchard. Would you make this deal? Let me know. Celtics, Blazers, getting some equal value, but also it's tough if you're Boston to part ways with Jaylen Brown because certainly his development has been insane. He's one of the best two-way players across the league and has a special relationship in Boston. Where will Dame play next year? That's our final question for you before we get out of here. Get those predictions in down below. I'll tell you what, Celtics Today, one of our fastest growing channels here at Chat Sports. So if you want to stay up to date with all of the Celtics news and rumors, hit that red subscribe button down below or go to youtube.com/CelticsTV. If the Celtics have to choose between either paying Marcus Smart, whose contract is up after this upcoming season, or Evan Fournier, who's going to be a free agent this offseason, who would you rather pay? Let's start with Marcus Smart. Big question for the Celtics this offseason is how are they going to address the point guard position? Who's going to be the starter at point guard after they traded away Kemba Walker and brought back Al Horford as well as Moses Brown? Of course, they sent their first-round pick to OKC in that trade. Right now on the roster, it's Marcus Smart or either Peyton Pritchard as the options. And Marcus Smart entering the final year of his contract. So could the Celtics not only look to make him the starting point guard, could they sign him to a contract extension? You know who's really high on him? New head coach Ime Udoka. He's familiar with Smart because he coached him during the 2019 World Championships, and during his introductory news conference, he had said this about Marcus Smart. Smart is a foundational piece, and Celtics fans have learned to love this guy because he has become the heart and soul of the organization as well as the heart and soul of Boston. Udoka said the same thing, that Smart is a building piece. He's a building block, and we see him being a part of this core to join forces alongside Jayson Tatum as well as Jaylen Brown. But my one big question for the Celtics is this. They don't have a ton of money. They can still use that trade exception from Gordon Hayward on a free agent because some of it was used on Evan Fournier. But how much money is Marcus Smart going to demand on the open market? And if he's demanding too much money, could the Celtics either look to not give him that contract extension or just let him play out the final year of his contract? The numbers that he put up this past year, I think they were pretty good. And I think the assist numbers could be better when he's thrust into the full-time point guard spot if that is his role. 13 points, around 6 assists, somewhat of an efficient player as well, although those nights are certainly up and down. But I'll tell you this, Marcus Smart's value defensively, he's one of the best two-way guards in the NBA. Back in 2018, maybe this is kind of a scale as to what we can expect Marcus Smart to get as a free agent, whether that be from the Celtics or another team. 4 years, $51.8 million back a couple years ago. I think Smart is probably going to ask for something in that neighborhood. So once again, the big question, you're going to pay Marcus Smart, you're going to pay Evan Fournier, who was really the Celtics' big splash acquisition made at the NBA trade deadline. Let's look into Evan Fournier's status because Celtics fans weren't too familiar with him because he was out so long because of COVID protocols, and I talk about him being that big deal at the trade deadline for Boston in addition to dealing away Daniel Tice. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent this year, and his contract is expiring from when he originally signed a 5-year, $85 million deal 5 years ago. I think that's way too steep of a price for Evan Fournier, but it looks as though he could have a market according to an NBA executive who said this recently about the wing guy. He's going to look for $15 to $20 million a year. I'm not sure where he gets that from. It'll be interesting because the Celtics have never been willing to pay the tax, so getting around that will be hard for them. If they let him walk, there's no replacement. Disagree with that last part. I think you can find a viable replacement for Fournier. His numbers last year were good. This is a guy who I think is more so a good stats, okay to bad team guy. Can't put up these types of numbers with the Celtics, and if you let him walk, I know you made those deals at the trade deadline, not the worst thing in the world. Before we get out of here, pick one player to pay. A little bit of a tongue twister there, but we do it all here at Chat Sports. You know what it is. MS for Marcus Smart, EF for Evan Fournier. Get those votes in the comment section. I'm going Smart all the way.